Eric Edholm from Pro Football Weekly, kind enough to join us for a couple moments and kind of do a little whip around the NFL and the league. Eric, how you doing, pal?
Rich, what's up, man? Everything's good here.
I'm doing well. Appreciate you jumping on board. All right, let's stick with the Eagles in our backyard for a moment. I'm just wondering, you go into year number 2 with Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz. What would be the realistic expectations of this team when you talk about some of the moves they made in the draft, some of the moves they made offensively, bringing in Smith and Jeffrey and Blunt? How do you handicap this Eagles team going into year number 2 under Wentz and Doug Peterson?
Yeah, I think pretty strong. I know obviously there's a lot of sentiment that the Cowboys or Giants or, maybe even, goodness, the Redskins could be contenders. I think you really have to consider the Eagles, and I promise I'm not just pandering to your audience there. I kind of like them. I do worry a little bit about the makeup of the run game, and I know that's been, everyone sort of assumes Blunt will step in. I know last night wasn't great. The one clear area he's going to help them is in the red zone, which was a disaster last year. I don't know how the big picture works, and does the Humphrey step up? Is Smallwood an option? Is there someone on the street who could step right in and buttress that? So I like it as a complimentary move, but I still worry overall. I just think Wentz takes a step up. The pass rush is going to be a bear to deal with. And they've helped out the secondary, which is key. Yeah,
no, I agree 100%. And we were talking about it in the 12 o'clock hour, the draft pick of Barnett, who's already inserting himself defensively. I actually said this about 15 minutes ago. If I'm Schwartz this year, you know what I do? I'm thinking pin the ears back and blitz, 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 blitz. I mean, just get that. They haven't had that defensive identity since Jim Johnson. Now, yeah, you had different players back then, but they need to go back to being that nasty defense, that opportunistic defense. And in the NFC East, you got a pretty damn good defense. You're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, and obviously if they feel like they can supply that kind of pressure by rushing 4, don't just blitz for the sake of blitzing, but I get your point. Be a pressure-based defense and not just kind of sits back and gives up 6 and 7 yard gains. I really think they could be a candidate to lead the NFL in sacks, or at least, quarterback hurries and something like that, and really make disruptive plays. That's a great formula if you've got it. They seem to have waves of pass rushers and maybe guys you can kick down inside on 3rd and 7 and longer. So I love that front. Secondary still out, so obviously has to prove itself. And they want to play man defense outside, so that's that's different from some other teams' approaches.
Hey, listen, it's not always about statistics with the sacks, but if you get that pressure, you hear it a lot, right? They're getting there. The Giants, they were able to mask it because they had a great secondary and corners and safety play last year, and I agree with you in the sentiment with the Eagles as well. And I'm just one more on the Eagles and Wentz for a minute, because I get a lot of guys that text and are calling, and it seems as though there are the people that are really high on Wentz and for what he was able to do early on last year. Everyone thought it was the smoke and mirrors. Still played particularly well. I think people were too enamored with trying to connect the dots and maybe compare him to Prescott, which is apples to oranges, if you ask me. You got the ground game and an offensive line in Dallas. They said the reports are Wentz worked on a lot of stuff during the offseason. His foot movement, his reads, his progressions. If there was one thing, though, that you look at Carson Wentz that you said it's just vital that he has to improve on, would it be the decision-making / the turnovers, or, is that being nitpicky? Because I think the turnovers, he's got to cut them down.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And some of those were – it's funny because on the one hand, there had to be some frustration, right? All the drop passes last year, you saw it was obvious. And so I'm sure the coaches on some level were saying, cut it loose. We want you to make plays. We don't want you to just be checking down every single time. And heck, if they're going to drop the check down for the intermediate stuff, we might as well at least have a turnover 40 yards down the field. But so I would say the deep accuracy, connecting on a few more of those balls, and they should have those options there with Torrey. And, it sounds like Aguilar stepped up, and obviously Alshon Jeffrey is like the jump ball specialist. I mean, heck, the Bears offense, the last 5 years was basically throw it up to Jeffrey and pray. Hope it works. So, if that works, superb. And they've got tight ends, they've got backs too who can catch the ball. So I I think some of that decision-making and the turnover stuff will just happen naturally within the flow of the offense. I think he'll absolutely cut down on his turnover percentage this year.
Yeah, and everyone's still banking for Aguilar to have that breakout year. And again, I'll believe it when I see it on Sunday. Consistency, that's all that you're asking for. I'm curious to get your take on the Giants. We know the defense. We know the money they spent translated into a lot of success last year. They had one of the top 5 defenses, especially against the run. Snacks is a huge acquisition for them. Collins coming off a great year. So they're primed to really shut down some offenses. The issue is with that offense itself and the left tackle position, Flowers. I don't care who Eli's throwing it to. They've had issues running the football, getting that offensive line in sync. You can throw anyone back there. If the quarterback's not upright, well, because people believe he's skittish, I would throw it down every time because I know that pass rush is coming. If you're a Giant fan, you have to still be concerned that the offensive line wasn't really addressed.
Oh, I get skittish watching them. I get skittish watching some of those plays. And if you're going to use 5-man protections, which they like to do a lot, you're counting on guys like Eric Flowers to steal the edge. You're counting on those interior guys to give clean passing windows, which wasn't always the case. And Eli has a little bit of that, 3/4 motion too, so he's getting balls knocked down that that maybe other quarterbacks a little more over the top are going to have some better opportunities with. But yeah, so blocking up front, no doubt. The run game, is Paul Perkins going to step up, or is it going to be a committee again? Who's going to be the guy? You have to see some kind of
a semblance of a ground game. Yep, I agree.
Yes, something. I mean, even with all the passing options you have, and they could be exciting, believe me. But just that little semblance of balance will make things a lot easier for Eli and just for the offense in general, I think.
All right. I believe that the suspension for Elliott's going to stick. He misses the 6 games. I don't believe it's going to be reduced to 4. Let's just keep it out at 6 right now, just for the sake of argument. We know what he was able to do behind that offensive line last year, and Prescott had an outstanding season for a rookie quarterback, 4th-round draft pick that nobody heard of until Romo went down. But how much of that loss, how much of a loss of Elliott, how much does it really affect that offense? And more or less, how much pressure is now put on the quarterback?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And Dak's been in the spotlight before. I mean, he lifted a college program to heights that it really hadn't seen, and he put so much on his shoulders. And you look at who they had as skill position guys in college. It wasn't an exceptional group. He did so much of it himself. A lot of it was running, but he developed. I mean, really, the improvement he made from 2014 to 2016 in college as a passer, to me, was notable. That's why I thought he could be a good quarterback down the road. I didn't think it would be year one, and he blew everyone's expectations, even the Cowboys. I mean,
no doubt.
They didn't know he was going to be that good. They said it. I appreciate their honesty on that. But, yeah, it's not like there's an insane drop-off to Darren McFadden at his best, but it's notable, and there's no doubt. I mean, Zeke can give you the inside zone, the outside zone, the screen game, the draws, the power runs. I mean, he does everything so well. And I guess it just sort of adds to the pressure that was going to be there no matter what with Prescott in year 2. The expectations were going to be out of control, even if Elliott was going to play 16 games. So, yeah, it's going to be unfair when they start out 3-3 or something, or 2-4 or whatever it ends up being, because their schedule's brutal.
Yes, it is.
People are going to look at Dak first. I just don't think that's fair. I think there's going to be a lot of other people that have to step up.
Eric Edholm from Pro Football Weekly and FanRag Sports join us for a couple of moments. $1:30 here on a Friday on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll take you up to 2. Plenty of time to play with. All right, a little whip around the league. I'm curious, what, if anything, you look at the Miami Dolphins, and I don't really necessarily know if Cutler is an upgrade over Moore, but the bottom line is this: the Patriots should waltz away with that division. But, I mean, is Miami and now this upgrade with Cutler, can they be a playoff team?
See, for me, they were candidates to drop out of that postseason mix even before Tannehill went down, and only because, and look, I respect the heck out of Adam Gase. I think he's going to be a fine head coach. I really do. What he's done in the past as an offensive coordinator with injury situations and what he did last year in his first year were both remarkable. I think he's got a great touch and feel for how to manage a team, how to call a game offensively, all that stuff. I think he's going to be a really good one. That said, they overachieved last year. They got whipped in December by the Ravens at home. or maybe I was in Baltimore, but, they barely beat the 49ers, the Jets, the Browns at home. I mean, they had some really close calls last year where they easily could have lost all three of those games. To me, they felt like a 7-9 team or an 8-8 team, and they were one that just overachieved. They beat Ben Roethlisberger with a knee injury, so it had a little bit of a smoke and mirrors feel to it last year. A lot of their draft picks were more down the road things. The one guy they made a play right away, gets hurt. They've had some bad injury luck. So, yeah, I mean, depending on how Cutler plays, I still see them as taking a step back.
Were you surprised that Marrone came out last night and said it's an open quarterback competition here in Jacksonville?
I mean, I've watched a lot of Blake Bortles. And I've just, like everybody else, I've seen the decline. And there was this feeling, heading into last season that he may still have a chance to be pretty good. He didn't play well.
No.
They pick up his fifth-year option. You felt like, okay, this is their last gasp of let's give them the confidence, let's give them Leonard Fournette, let's beef up the offensive line. But just all the bad signs that have been there. I mean, the 5-interception practice on the first day of training camp, reports of a tired arm, Allen Robinson complaining about the location of passes, caught on video and on Twitter moment there, but all that stuff. And then last night's performance on top of it, I guess it didn't stun me. And Kenny comes out and starts ripping passes, and it was almost like the receivers were shocked that the ball was hitting them in their hands.
Maybe I'm naive because I even said last year I thought he was salvageable. And then once you bring Copeland on, the one thing he cannot stand are the turnovers. He just can't. He never tolerated it with Eli. He's not going to tolerate it with Bortles. It amazes me. This is a kid a couple years ago that threw for 4,500 yards, 36 touchdown passes. Now you read into it what it is, but I thought he was still salvageable. That's bizarre, though. Listen, Jacksonville, to me, I don't think they're going to compete. I think you can make a case for every other team in that division. To me, it's Andrew Luck, the health of Andrew Luck. I know people are riding the Texans, which I'll ask you about in a second. I think the Titans, I like the progressions with Mariota. I like some of the moves they made in the offseason. Even a healthy Decker gives him a little more of a veteran presence, a slot guy, if you will. I like that line. They can run the football. To me, I think they're the team to beat. I'm just curious, coming out of the South, do you like the Titans, or are you more enamored with the Texans, or does everything fall on the arm and the shoulder of Andrew Luck?
Yeah, I mean, really, Luck's health right now, and I was in Colts camp a couple days last week, and let me tell you, if he's out for more than a game or two, it's going to be a real problem. I don't know how long it's going to be. They lost their starting center to Ryan Kelly. I mean, he could start week one, Luck, but do you trust putting him behind some center that you just signed off the street or an undrafted rookie? I don't know, man. You can't play scared, and you got to play your franchise QB.
Yeah, but Eric, that's malpractice on the GM then. You got to go out and you got to surround this kid with an offensive line and keep him upright.
I know, and not getting a better option at quarterback, too. This kid, Phillip Walker, they signed from Temple, I think has a chance. I mean, he's one of those guys that maybe 2 years from now you like his potential, but he's an undrafted rookie from Temple. No offense to anyone, from that program, but it's going to take a little while. So I came into August thinking, or training camp.
Hold on a second. Hassan Reddick just texted me. Hold on a second. Now go ahead.
I'm in trouble. Yeah, he'll come after me. There's no doubt.
Go ahead. I'm just messing with you.
That dude, you don't mess with him. I like him. I came into July thinking this might be a decent little division.
Right.
4 teams that are competitive and all between 7 and 10 wins. But like you, I'm starting to sour now on the Colts because of the health of Luck. I'm starting to sour on the Jaguars because of Bortles. And it's looking more like a 2-team division. I still kind of lean towards the Texans because of their defense a little bit. And I think Watson could be great one day. But it's hard not to like what the Titans have done.
2 more before I let you get out here. Do you think Watson starts week 1? Or do you think, by the way, you said he's going to be great one day. Do you think they're going to give him baby steps?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, the schedule, they play the Jaguars week 1, I guess, if you want to have a confidence booster, and you rub it into the team who considered Watson. I mean, the Jaguars looked hard at Deshaun Watson. I wrote about it this week. But they said, no, let's go. We picked up Bortles' option. We got Fournette. Let's do it that way. So, I mean, what a story that would be if Deshaun Watson just shreds him for 200 passing and, and 86 rushing or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, then you have New England in week 3, and it's like you could maybe wait a little if Tom Savage is clearly the better guy right now. That's a tough one. I still got to dig on that one a little bit.
All right, I'm going to give you my it's not even a bold prediction, hot take. It's just me talking. Sometimes both out of both sides of my mouth. I'm going to say by week 1, 2, 3, 4. By week he's not. No, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. By week 4, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the starting quarterback for Kansas City.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
I can't go week 5 because it's on the road against the Texans, and you're not starting a rookie against that defense. But they open the Patriots, the Eagles, the Chargers, Redskins. And I'm just wondering, I'm getting your sense. Do they want this kid to start?
I spoke to Kansas City this morning, and they told me Alex Smith is not getting traded. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, they almost laughed at me when I asked them. I mean, I don't know if it was like, the swirling rumors that, hey, Mahomes playing well. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that doesn't happen. And I like Mahomes. And I'm not, you might be right, but I think they like him, and I think they feel like they can contend this season with Alex, the quarterback. I know Chiefs fans may have a different view of that. I think that may be a tad early, but you never know. I mean, Smith has just sort of shown he's got a high floor but a low ceiling,
It's amazing, though, because, again, I know people don't, and you ask quarterbacks or ex-quarterbacks, they don't like the phrase manage the game, but that's what he does. He's not going to overwhelm you, but he's not really going to kill you with the brutal interception. And a couple years ago, it was the play calling in the playoff loss. And then I like Alex Smith. I think he's a good quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback. I just think right now it seems as though they're waiting for him to play himself out of that out of the starter role. It just seems like
and think of. Yeah. I mean, just think about how much a Jaguars fan would love Alex Smith. You know what I mean? Like, think about it in those days. Chiefs fans are ready to move on. Jaguars fans say, if we could only get someone as steady as Alex Smith, we've got this talented young team. So it's crazy how perception changes based on the rest of the team. No,
you're right. Hey, Eric, great stuff, pal. I appreciate you jumping on board. Hopefully we can get you back on, and always appreciate it. Good stuff today.
Sounds good. Thank you, man.
All right, you got it.